People's Fort would like to welcome back H.D. Franklin L.
Thank you. Good morning.
Mr. Franklin has joined us today to dialogue a second installment that he has prepared.
Thank you.
This presentation of the People's Fort is brought to you by 5-Star Proud and the H.D. Franklin L. Foundation. The opinions expressed within this content are solely of the authors and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of our sponsors. Mr. Franklin, the mic is all yours.
Thank you very much. The entitlement of this segment is Reciprocity. You've disrupted the peace of my struggle with the antics of styrofoam rocks and paper sticks and words that are intended to cause harm. In short, I am not satisfied with you. You have crossed the line and I am your day of reckoning. For you to say to me that you may have made a mistake and jumped to the wrong conclusion against me is mind-boggling to me, as there was never any truth to anything to the contrary. You have polluted the air that I breathe, and you poisoned the water that I drink. You pillaged the land beneath my feet and robbed the tombs and graves of my ancestors under the guise of archaeology to further arm yourself against me. You conceal from me the simplest of truths, such as even the number of hours in an average day, and you taught the regeneration of the tree that George Washington proverbially chopped down. And by that, I will say this: George Washington was never a general in anybody's military. The highest rank that George Washington did earn was colonel. However, Wikipedia gives various other indications.
Now, it's my understanding that George Washington was alive. Well, while he was alive, his highest rank was as a lieutenant, and it was something like 175 years after his death that he was bestowed more of an honorary title as a general.
I concur. In reference, to be a little more specific with that, December 13th, 1752, he was listed as the rank of major and adjutant. That was for Providence, Virginia. Lieutenant Colonel, Virginia Regiment, May 15th, 1754. Colonel, Virginia Regiment, August 14th, 1755. General and Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army was June 15th, 1775, and Lieutenant General of the U.S. Army, July 3rd, 1798. On July 4th, 1976, this nation's bicentennial, George Washington was posthumously promoted to General of the Armies of the United States. When George Washington served in the Army, he was a mere Major General, 2 stars. After his presidency, John Adams promoted him to Lieutenant General, 3 stars. It stayed that way for centuries, every 4 and 5-star general who came afterward outranking him.
In today's world, it can feel like every step we take brings on a new challenge in life. Here at H.D. Franklin L. Foundation, we start with the people. Having built our foundation off the idea of remaining flexible in order to help in the now as our community encounters ever-changing challenges. Initiatives such as clean drinking water, environmentally safe, affordable housing, and civil rights are just the beginning of what we strive to impact. Enable us to help others rise above by donating today at hdfranklinlfoundation.org.
2 days before Christmas, a Black woman by the name of Corlinda McGinnister announced that her life was in danger. Miss McGinnister claimed that unless she brought to the public's attention immediately the evidence that she has in support of the danger on her life, that she would be assassinated. On December 23rd, 2022, Miss Corlinda McGinnister was shot to death by Nazi cops for all to witness in Richmond, Mississippi, while in a Walmart store. Corlinda McGinnister took a Walmart employee as hostage and immediately began requesting the presence of the media. The Walmart hostage was a Caucasian woman. Richland cops arrived to the scene and Miss McGinnister continued to explain that her life is in danger and that she needed the media because she has evidence that the public has to be made aware of. Richland Nazi cops assassinated Miss McGinnister without allowing Miss McGinnister the opportunity to provide the names, dates, and other evidence that Miss McGinnister has to the media and or anyone else there. Why was SWAT not called to the scene? Why was any other hostage negotiator not called to the scene before Miss McGinnister was assassinated? Was there an official kill order in place against Miss Corlinda McGinnister in order to prevent Miss McGinnister from being able to expose the evidence that Miss McGinnister had? Why was Michael Jackson, Sasha Ivana Bell, Shakur Renee Reed, and Prince, aka the artist formerly known as The Symbol, assassinated before they were able to say what they had to say? What catastrophic event has to occur before Black people wake up? The 50th Speaker of the House of Representatives and also 2012 presidential candidate Newt Gingrich spoke directly on how racial disparity by Caucasians against Black people, and specifically I, a Black man, was and is to create generational wealth for Caucasians by the recidivism of Black people, and specifically I, a Black man. People, there will be no charges filed against the Nazi federal marshals that assassinated yet another Black man, and his name is Winston Smith. Thus, I guess that the Caucasian Kimberly Porter will receive a promotion for her assassination of a Black man by the name of Dante Wright.
Remind us again who Winston Smith and Dante Wright are.
Winston Smith was a Black man, 32 years of age, in his prime. He was executed on June 3rd, 2021 in a Minneapolis parking lot by Hennepin County Sheriffs and U.S. Marshals, as reported by USA Today. And also that there, in that report, it explains that there will be no charges filed against either the county sheriffs nor the U.S. Marshals for assassinating yet another Black man. Dante Wright, a 20-year-old Black man, was assassinated on April 11th, 2021 in the Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, not far from where Derek Chauvin was on trial for the assassination of George Floyd. You see, I am familiar with the murderous tactics of the Nazi Gestapo, and that they are the exact same as when a pregnant Black woman would be made to watch those Black people that she holds dear to her heart beaten for not complying with the slave master's instructions. The unborn child within the womb of the Black woman experiences the pain and the fear experienced by the pregnant Black woman. The womb of the pregnant Black woman is the DNA imprint of the knowledge acquired by the Black mother's experiences. The unborn child is born a coward without ever even knowing why. This is why I have no respect for the movie Roots, especially since Alex Haley did not actually write the manuscript entitled Roots. Caucasians did, and according to court documents, the names of the Caucasian writers are Harold Corlander, Alex Fisher, Harry Cole, Emma Lee Paul. Also see the United States District Court cited as Alexander versus Haley, 460, Federal Supplement 40, 1978. All that the book and the series' roots did, in my humble opinion, was to glorify the buying, beating, raping, murdering, hanging, torturing, and various other levels of dehumanizing of black people. To feed and embed the fear in black people of Caucasians. That was the sole purpose of the movie, i.e., the Lebensborn Center by way of hypnotherapy training. December 1865, slavery reached puberty, and although not yet grown, the progenitors of slavery employed word semantics from an already ever-growing lexicon of Caucasian words, having Caucasian meanings. The English language is the most ambiguous language that there is. Caucasians made up laws in order to first continue slavery under the guise of the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which thereby created a mandatory system of checks and balances that had to first be met in order to secure this cloak and dagger covert mission. Secondly, Caucasians were accusing black people, and specifically I, a black man, of such things as looking at a Caucasian woman with sexual intent, R.I.P. Emmett Till, to charges of murder, long live Asada Abdullah Shakur, aka Joanna Deborah Byron.
Now, who is Joanna Deborah Byron, and why does she have two names?
The first name is Joanna. That was her given name under Caucasian rule. That was her birth name, her government name in the United States. She changed her name to Asada Abdullah Shakur as a way to identifying with her roots, with her national origin. I do not subscribe to the rhetoric of James Earl Ray assassinating the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I do not believe that a gunshot through the lower jaw would cause the demise of the average man. Hence, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. I do, however, subscribe to the logic that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was asphyxiated while in the hospital after being shot through the lower jaw on the balcony. Nevertheless, you made up these treaties, rules, laws, regulations, and policies, and they were shouted from the highest profane seat in the United States, the White House. Treaties, laws, rules, regulations, and policies authored by your penmanship established a safeguard to provide you with not only more time to create more pool pits to spew more of your racial hate crimes, including but not limited to the systematic genocide by mind-altering catchphrases, but to also make it illegal to teach black people, and specifically I, a black man, the treaties, laws, rules, regulations, and policies that a land that never belonged to you is to be governed by. Therefore, black people, and specifically I, a black man, was subjected to verbal assaults by not of my peers, but of Caucasians who needed me to pick your cotton, to pull your plow, and by whatever other means necessary to ensure your financial gain. After all, this is a capitalistic society, and you had to put food on your table. And since you did not know how to accomplish that simple task on your own, Black people, and specifically I, a black man, was forced to endure lashes from your whip of poverty. Penniless and in a state imposed physical condition of destitution, I cleaned your toilets, I cut your grass, I picked your cotton, and I built your plantations high up on the hills. You soiled my name with phantom violations no more valid than those of Carolyn Bryant or Carolyn Dunham. You labor to slander and to defame my name and to remove any means of me legally ensuring a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food on a table, and an automobile for travel. You fear fate. And though I have submitted two separate formal documents in the form of Freedom of Information Act requests, formally requesting direct proof to the words of your purported violations, you've ignored my request. On September 12th, 2022, and October 31st, 2022, wherein, pursuant to MCL 15.231, ET, SEQ, as well as 5 USC 552, a true and complete copy of whatever evidence of violations that you claim that I am guilty of was requested. You are not alone in ignoring the inquiries as to why I am being denied the benefit of equal protection and due process of law. Within the monopoly of your depravity is the supervisory level, which is to review your actions, supposedly to ensure that all your actions are within the treaties, laws, rules, regulations, and policies of the land, and especially of your own penmanship. I assume that such levels of review is by unbiased and non-racial adjudicators of facts, and not mindless vessels which chant the blowing breeze of racism in through one ear and out without obstruction the other ear. With the Nazi administration of big business and their maintained buffer zone of protection from justice, the Unemployment Agency, UIA, the current flow of racism is unchecked and rises to epic proportions. On December 7, 2022, I received a notice of determination, and although there is not even a skeleton of evidence to cause the racial and wrongful termination, the UIA denied earned benefits to a black man for purported policy violations. However, when the black man objected to the denial of benefits and requested to see what it is that the UIA vested its decision upon, the black man was again denied. That I, a black man, immediately appealed the denial of the UIA's decision and again requested a copy of whatever evidence it is that the UIA is basing its denial upon. But on December 14, 2022, the bowels of racism expelled this century-old rhetoric of the black person is guilty of anything as well as everything, exclaimed by a Caucasian in the form of a notice of redetermination. Keep in mind that there are no signatures on these documents from these racist establishments, but Susan R. Corbin is the director of the UIA and ultimately responsible for the actions and omissions of her Gestapo. Now I must remind you, Charlie Siska, you, Breen Merriam, you, Sheila Bellett, and you, Corey Frost, that the rules, regulations, and policies of your making and or your enforcement do in fact allow as representatives of the Lexmark Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, and you, Susan R. Corbin, director of the UIA, are legally bound by the same rules, regulations, policies. Though Michigan is an at-will employment state, these Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, effectively created a vested liberty interest when you claim that a black person is guilty of a policy violation. Therefore, you, Charlie Siska, you, Bren Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, and you, Susan R. Corbin, have to produce the actual violation of same said laws, rules, regulations, and or policies of violation.
I hear this term thrown around a lot, this at-will employment state, but what exactly does this mean to the average person?
Well, at will states means that within that state, either the employee or the employer can walk away from the job or terminate the job without cause. They don't need a reason. The employee can just come in one day and simply say, I quit, or not show up at all. Or you can come in one day and the employer can say, we don't need you anymore. You're fired. But in this state, the language is tailored to protect you so that if a charge is leveled against you that causes your termination, that charge has to be specific. Now you create a liberty interest because you said I violated this or I did that according to you that was in violation of your policy. Keep in mind that in the language of an at-will employment, in particular, the state of Michigan observes the concept of at-will employment, but there are a number of exceptions to it. For example, employers are not allowed to fire employees for reasons that hinder the employee's protected rights, such as a difference in opinion over religious beliefs. Michigan's business owners also may not fire employees with whom they are currently under contract or for reasons that contradict public policy. Any employer that terminates an employee under contract for discriminatory reasons or for reasons that contradict public policy may face wrongful termination charges in court of law. Further, you are bound by law to produce whatever phantom evidence that you have in support of your racist and wrongful termination upon formal request, of which I have made 2 formal requests to you, the UIA, and both have been wrongfully and illegally denied. Regardless to how many already established outhouses of your stupor who manufacture and regurgitate the dung of Hitler, Woodrow Wilson, John Ehrlichman, and Richard Milhouse Nixon, it became well established that the United States is a society of rules, regulations, policies, laws, and treaties. Therefore, the law must be adhered to in an ordered society. And I quote, "This is a nation of laws, and as Abraham Lincoln has said, no one is above the law and no one is below the law. And we are going to enforce the law, and Americans should remember that, if we are going to have law and order." End quote. Richard Milhouse Nixon. I have submitted complaints against you Nazi administrators to the likes of the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, ACLU, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nelson, Governor of the state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, the United States Attorney General, and even the United States President, Joe Biden, as well as various other organizations. And it is my earnest endeavor to have you each, Charlie Siska, you, Bren Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, Nazis administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boeing City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, Susan R. Corbin, placed in handcuffs, arrested, charged, and behind bars for the direct part in the hate crimes against black people, and specifically, I, a black man. I'm sure that you remember the sensationalized race war against black people from the United States White House by Ronald and Nancy Reagan during the coining of the phrase, just say no, along with Democratic Congressman Charles B. Rangel of New York's 13th District. That is not to say that the agenda of race war against blacks is anything new by Caucasians, but I viewed the contents of the National Democratic Convention in New York of 1924. Then it was estimated that at least 350 delegates were Klansmen, but it is that report that made it slightly more trying to obtain documentation of later numbers. My point is this: the United States White House is merely an extension of Hitler's Nazi Lebensborn Center. And from the pulpit of the Devil's Den, John Ehrlichman, former Nixon advisor, and I quote, "The Nixon campaign of 1968 and the White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I am saying? We know we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black people, but by getting the public to associate hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin and decriminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt their communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about drugs? Of course we did." End quote. You see, I understand that you, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, are Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boeing City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, the Unemployment Insurance Agency, and in specific you, Director Susan R. Corbin, that in the racial and wrongful termination of a black man, that you are doing everything that you can in the furtherance of the disenfranchisement of black people, and specifically I, a black man. I am sure by now that you realize that I most definitely object to the lashes from your whip of racism. You Nazis, one and all, you Charlie Siska, you Bryn Merriam, you Sheila Bellant, and you Corey Frost are Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation in Boeing City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, the Unemployment Agency, and in specific you, Director Susan R. Corbin, continuously gain financially from the disenfranchisement of black people, and specifically I, a black man. Your children are sent to colleges and universities by the laws that you break in the commission of your hate crimes. In a direct fight against black people, and specifically I, a black man, racism provided Caucasians with another means by which to live in the lap of luxury, as well as ensured you Caucasians a stable income to create other subsidies to further the contract to remain in concert with racism as a staple in the institution of Caucasian supremacy. I recall that in 1989, 5 black teens that were accused of assaulting and raping of a Caucasian female jogger in New York's Central Park. Although there were no evidence against these 5 black youths, they were convicted, and former United States President Donald Trump called for their assassination. Former United States President Donald Trump was so brazen with his racism, Trump took out an ad in the New York papers calling for the assassination of these 5 black people. Nearly 14 years after the conviction of these same 5 black youths, these same 5 black youths were exonerated as a result of DNA, which proved that neither of these 5 black youths had even saw the particular Caucasian jogger in New York's Central Park. Fortunately, these 5 black people are no longer slaves in the big business of warehousing of black people in the penal system as of 2002. To this very day, former United States President Donald Trump yet claims that these same 5 black people should be assassinated, and that's just for being black. These same black people have had their lives destroyed, but they are black people. You have destroyed my credit. You have prevented me from purchasing the land and home of my selection. You have ensured that I am penniless, homeless, and without a roof over my head, nor a table to place food upon. I find no surprise in the warrantless traffic stops by Nazi cops, nor the approach of Nazi cops with their hands on their guns, willing, able, and eager to assassinate as many black people as they can, especially when I, a black man, is in the Nazis' reign and direct line of fire.
How many times have you been stopped without a just cause in the Emmett County area?
About 5. One I have recorded. They used to sit outside the residence where I reside, just parked, and would stop me on my way to work in the mornings. The State Farm Insurance branch of Eden Rapids, Michigan, inexplicably breached the contract between them and I by canceling my rental insurance, and within days, someone tried to break in to where I lay my head. That was entirely too much to be a coincidence. The attempt to break into where I lay my head was not immediately reported, as the police report reveals, and that's because I was in hope of you returning. But I guess that it was just not your time then. I do believe that it was the very same State Farm Insurance branch within Eden Rapids that facilitated the payout from the so-termed misappropriation of funds by the Caducees of the Home Record Construction Company of Eden Rapids, Michigan. Since it was the customers that had to pay for the Home Records Construction Company's extortion scheme. The paperwork on the 15% window tint has been sitting on the desk of the state of Michigan, specifically the Department of Visual Specialist Statement of Examination, for nearly 6 months now, and still no response despite the medical urgency. Perhaps if I were a Caucasian, maybe if I represented the likes of such Nazi administrators as you, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, you, Sheila Bellet, and you, Corey Frost, Nazi administrators of the Lexamar Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, the Unemployment Insurance Agency, and in specific you, Director Susan R. Corbin. I would not have to be apprehensive even when I slumbered. Maybe if I were to mirror the filth that is Clarence Thomas, I would yet be gainfully employed with the roof over my head, food on a table to eat, and an automobile to travel to and from employment. I have endured racism while working out in the gym, and when I intentionally avoided the contact with certain Caucasian females leering through the window from outside, they went to their employer of a totally different building and claimed that because a black man not only wanted nothing to do with either of them, that the black man is suspicious, especially since the black man pulled the hoodie of his shirt up over his bald black head, trying to prevent these Caucasian maggots from leering at this black man while the black man worked out. In short, the employer of the restaurant, an unconnected building to the gym, went to the manager of the gym where I was working out and threatened to phone the gym manager's supervisor with harsh words against the gym manager if the gym manager did not put the black man out of the gym. Though you are a restaurant owner, you are, in my opinion, a haven of Nazi racism against black people. Thus, you can be for sure that I shall never recommend that any black person frequent your establishment unless they want Caucasians to spit in their food. I would and do, however, recommend that the likes of Jesse Jackson Sr., Al Sharpton, Clarence Thomas do eat all that you Nazi establishments place before them, because I do not consider either of them to be black. Thus, should you Nazis persecute the United States Court Associate Justice Clarence Thomas or Jesse Jackson Sr. or Al Sharpton, please know that I will have no qualm with your actions. Each of you Nazis exemplify the racist hate crimes scripted in the support of the rhetoric detained within the film The Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffin. The movie The Birth of a Nation is, in my opinion, a racially motivated how-to guide on how to disenfranchise, rob, threaten, rape, beat, and hang black people. You, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, are Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, the Unemployment Insurance Agency, and in specific, you, Director Susan R. Corbin, are, in my opinion, guilty of terrorism, and these hate crimes are at war with the United States Constitution. I therefore believe that you are guilty of treason, and you should be legally prosecuted according to the fullest extent of the law. 42 U.S.C. 1983, 18 U.S.C. 249, and 18 U.S.C. 2381. For the record, I am yet to receive the substance of the court order, which directed the racist landlord Mike Caducci to return in full the security deposit back to plaintiff Franklin N. Franklin versus Caducci, docket number 22-2480. But I am going to make sure that this racist slumlord faces his actions of hate crimes towards black people, along with you, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, are Nazi administrators of the Lexmark Corporation within Boyne City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, the Unemployment Insurance Agency, in specific, Susan R. Corbin, Director of the UIA, in every single segment here in the People's Fort, because I have earned the rite of passage, and you have effectively destroyed the life that I had. Thus, if it is the dragging that you seek, I assure you that it will be the GOAT that you receive. Key 13, people. This is your call to order. Black people, wake up. This is a new era of time, and now the sun has pierced the clouds with that old time light, that original light. And I say to you, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, and you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, you are Nazi administrators of the Lexamar Corporation within Boeing City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, Susan R. Corman, UIA Director, are, in my humble opinion, hate monglers. You utilize your official capacity, as do the Ku Klux Klan when the KKK adorns their hoods. You mask your circumvention of black people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It is you, Charlie Siska, you, Bryn Merriam, you, Sheila Bellant, and you, Corey Frost, Nazi administrators of the Lexamar Corporation within Boeing City, Michigan, a subsidy of the Magna International Corporation, as well as you, Susan R. Corbin, UIA Director, that are truly the super predators of the United States. The wrinkles in the fabric of time are no longer able to grant you asylum from your hate crimes and your obvious lack of respect for the United States Constitution. Your terroristic tactics are made legally permissible through the current organized buffoonery, which began with Lieutenant George Washington and his barrage of venom into the roots of the American black people. Lieutenant George Washington sought guidance from the literary work entitled Robert's Rules of Order by Henry Martin Robert, as well as from the tutelage of the actual first black president of this nation, John Hanson, a black man representing Charles County, Maryland. John Hanson served as the first president of the original United States government, chartered by the Articles of Confederation in 1781. And twice before that, John Hanson played the key role at critical junctions in holding the 13 states together in a unified nation. John Hanson, a black man, served as the first president of the original United States government, chartered by the Articles of Confederation in 1781. And twice before that, he played the key role at critical junctures in holding the 13 states together in a unified nation. However, your history books portray this black man as a Caucasian. There are more black people that served as president that have to be added to the list of Abraham Lincoln, Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Dwight Eisenhower, Andrew Jackson, and Thomas Jefferson. In conclusion, I extend my condolences to the family of the Honorable Quentin Q. Williams, a Connecticut lawmaker killed, in my opinion, by yet another Manchurian candidate in a head-to-head automobile crash. Interestingly, how the driver of the vehicle came to be in the wrong lane and specifically in front of the Honorable Quentin Q. Williams is yet to be released to the public. Condolences are also extended. Condolences are also extended to the family of the United States Representative Jackie Wolosky. January 1st, 2023, AL. Happy New Year.
This presentation of the People's Fort is brought to you by 5 Star Proud and the H.D. Franklin L. Foundation. The opinions expressed within this content are solely of the authors and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of our sponsors.